of your tribalism and mine. And I thought, given that I'm in New York City, what better tribalism to study and to examine aloud than a baseball tribalism. And given how well the Yankees are doing this year, you should be feeling really great. And so we're going to do a test. And I'm going to need your participation. We're going to see words appear on a screen. They'll either belong to the category Red Sox or Yankees. And by the way, if you're a very strong Red Sox fan, like I am, be quiet during this demo. Do not participate at all, okay? But anybody who's a Yankee fan or just a New Yorker can. If you are a very, very serious Mets fan, then also be quiet, okay? But if you have a strong New York identity, then it should not be a problem for you to do this. So these are the words we'll use for the Yankees: Yankee Stadium, New York, and Babe Ruth. And for the Red Sox, we'll use equivalent words: Red Sox, Fenway Park, Boston, Massachusetts, and Ted Williams. Okay, so whether you're a baseball fan or not, this test should work. What we are going to do in this, I'm going to run a little program that will test how much you love the Yankees relative to the Red Sox. And the way it works is extremely simple. A word will pop up in the middle of the screen. It'll either be a Red Sox word or a Yankee word. If it's a Red Sox word, please rapidly and loudly say left, okay? If it's a Yankee word, rapidly and loudly say right. And when I say rapidly, I mean really rapidly. I mean like 700 milliseconds per item, okay? Which is faster than a second. Now, to do this, you will make some mistakes, saying left instead of right and right instead of left. That's okay. Given the incredibly competitive people you are, you will likely stop doing this the first mistake you make. Don't do that, okay? Continue to say left and right and keep up with the trials so that you get a feeling for how your tummy and your brain are responding to this exercise. So is everybody ready? You have to go loud, you have to go fast. That's it. Say left for Red Sox words, say right for Yankees words. Ready? Go. Right. Excellent. Okay, you are doing really well. So 700 or lower is a great score. That means you are really doing fine. No need to tell you to speed up. This is a good speed. Now you're going to see words that mean good and bad things in the world. If you see a word like love, peace, joy, friend, sunshine, glorious, success, you will say left. But if you see words that mean obvious bad words in the lexicon, words like devil, bomb, war, vomit, awful, failure, you will say right. And do not become philosophers and say, but which war did you mean, and so on. Just say right. Okay, so you're going to be saying left for angel and right for devil, and that's all you have to do. Again, go fast and go loud. Let's see how well you do now. Ready? Go. Right, left, left, right, left, right. Excellent. Okay, very good. Again, well under 700, which is just fine. And now we just put them together. Whoops. Let me try something because I want you to get the full experience. And so I'm going to just do something to fix this so that you actually get the full Yankee good experience. And now we will do this. Let me just go forward. Yeah, now you're ready. Okay, so the test we're going to take is going to be a Yankees and good on the left, Red Sox and bad on the right, okay? So just think of it this way. Anything that's your identity or anything that is good gets a left. Everything else you just say right. Let's see how fast you go here, and this is obviously one of the crucial tests. Go as fast as you can. Ready? Go. Right. Excellent. Okay, so think about this. This score is actually pretty amazing. Okay, you had to do something that was twice as hard as what you did, and you're still within good statistical range of what you did before. So remember the number 782, because that's going to be half the score that we're going to compute to measure your tribal love for the Yankees over the Red Sox. Okay, all right. And now that you've done this so well, we need not repeat it. Now we're going to just practice a switch. Now say left for Red Sox and right for Yankees. Ready? Easy to do. Go. Excellent. Woo, you're beating the speed of sound here. This is wonderful. Okay, and now for this last round, you're going to say left for Red Sox and good, and right for Yankees and bad. See, you're groaning already. I love human beings. They know before they're going to screw up that they're going to screw up. Okay? All right. So everybody ready? I'm going to go as loud as you can because I want to see how pathetic you are in this round. Okay. Go. Okay. So as a friend of mine said, you don't need a computer to measure this bias. A sundial will do. And I think that that is what we see. So why did I do this particular test with you today? And let's just go back and have a conversation for the few minutes that I have. I'm going to argue that belonging to tribes, as you've heard from the previous speakers, can be a very wonderful thing. What they focused on, though, were things like survival of the group, okay? And I've mentioned those as well. But I am interested in something that tribes do for us, and that is they make us work harder. They make us do better. They make us want to achieve more. So belonging to tribes can be a very, very wonderful thing. You know, as Michelangelo lay upside down painting a ceiling. Yes, I'm sure a large part of it had to do with his passion as an artist. But I also believe that he did it because he was a member of a guild. He was up there doing what he did because he cared about this tribe called artists in the same way as I care about a tribe called scientists or women in science. These are my tribes. Many of us belong to these tribes, and I believe that more than just thinking about the survival of the group, tribes get us out of bed in the morning, get us to work, and make us do lots of wonderful things, okay? So we know that, and tribes do that, and that's why I can't say to you, tribes are bad. Let's go into the brain and just lop off a piece of the brain. That's the tribal part of the brain, and we will be fine. Our difficulty is that the very thing that makes us succeed, the very thing that protects us, the very thing that we will give our lives for, is also the thing that not only harms us individually, but harms us as groups, and harms, right now, I would say, is likely to be harmful to the planet as a whole, and that's why we're here today. Because it's very easy to look at the good things tribes do, and I don't wish to undermine those at all. But today I want to focus on the aspect of tribes that I think you came here to talk about, and that is that tribes begin as very simple things that are almost neutral. There's always the us, and then there are simple neutral thems. And those thems can start to have words that we use to describe them, like resident alien. Okay? And then those words become a little bit stronger, like enemy, but then they become even more strong until it justifies a certain set of behaviors or actions that come from something as simple as them. And my job in my work is to look at that entire span from the thems all the way to thinking about why we would say, yes, it's important to exterminate them, for example. So when I gave you this test that you took, the Red Sox and Yankees test, is a lovely test, right? You loved showing preference for your own kind, okay? And the nice thing about it is that if I did this test in Boston, I would have gotten exactly the opposite result. Even more so because we're losing this year. And there's huge anger towards the Yankees this year. And we're really hoping they don't win the World Series. No, just kidding. All right, so I'm here to tell you that when you take the test, I want you to do something that will require your imagination, and that is to replace the Yankees and Red Sox with other group names, and imagine how the test would have come out. Instead of Yankees and Red Sox, straight and gay, or dark-skinned and light-skinned, or elderly and young, or African and European, whatever. Pick any two and just plug them into that test. And now imagine taking the same test you just took. Our data show that if I gave you the race version, you would show an association, a faster association of good with white than with black. Okay? That you would show, if you were Christian, you would probably show stronger association of good with Christian than Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever it might be. This one is a weird one. Whether you are young or elderly, you'll show preference for the young. That's how deep the thumbprint of the culture is on our brain on that one. And I could go on and on and on and on, but that test, if I gave you one of those tests, there is nothing pleasurable about taking it. I had the most unique experience of taking one of my own tests in 1994, and knowing myself, I said, I know exactly how this is going to come out. I'm pretty neutral on this, so I took a race test. And it was as if my fingers were stuck on the keyboard, and I could not make them even move when I had to associate black and good and white and bad. The other was easy. I was going at 400 milliseconds on average, really fast. When it was white and good, not a problem. And when I first took that test, it was confronting an aspect of my mind that I was completely unfamiliar with. Okay? And so my first thought was, something screwed up with the test. It can't be me. But we had built the test. This was our test. And a few seconds later, I realized certainly, that it wasn't the test that was screwed up, it was my brain that was screwed up. And by screwed up, I mean only one thing. There's no passing or failing score on the test. You only measure your performance on these tests by one standard. Where would you like to be? That's it. Okay? You set the standard, and now you measure how close is your behavior on this test to that standard, because this behavior is revealing to you a little bit about what the culture has thumbprinted onto your brain, and it's not out there just in the culture. It is now in ourselves. So these variations that we've been studying have been incredibly interesting. The tests are available on a website. You go to implicit.harvard.edu, and you can take them yourselves. Many of you probably already have, because we have 30 million or so people who've taken these tests. And from these tests, I'm going to tell you that the data tell us that things are a lot worse than you would have thought. If I give you a little survey and I say, how do you feel about the X group? You and I are going to be, given our values, very moderate. We will say we like everybody. We like them all, okay? But if you begin to look below the surface, then one of the things you have to face is that it is a lot worse than we were thinking. And it is a lot worse in places like here and like Boston. I have a feeling that my friends in Boston have a view of the world that we're not the problem people. We were the first, the early abolitionists are from the city after all. Massachusetts is the first state that voted in gay marriage. So people there feel like there is a problem in this country, but it is sort of south of the Mason-Dixon line. And the Mason-Dixon line runs somewhere halfway in Connecticut. Okay? That's what they think. But I am here to tell you that this is universal. What we're detecting is everywhere, in every region of the country. I'm not saying they're all equal, but it is everywhere. So it's universal, it's you and me, and that generates a very different discussion than when we sit there and we pontificate about what's going on in the rest of the country while we are okay, right? These statistical effects are large. You cannot run away from them. They're huge, okay? You can't just say, oh, that's a little effect. It'll go away in a few years. Dominant groups, members of dominant groups show these biases even more in many cases. That is to say, if 75% of white Americans show a preference on the race test for white over black, we would say, maybe it would be fine then if it's going to be that way. Then if black Americans, 75% of black Americans show the opposite effect, favoring black over white, then it's like the Yankees and the Red Sox test. The Yankee fans love the Yankees, the Red Sox fans love the Red Sox. It's opposite effects, but it's symmetric. There's equal love for each group for its own kind. But that is not the case when I talk about things like race or sexuality, okay? Straight people show much more positivity towards straight over gay. Gay people's attitudes, they're changing really fast, but they still are not at the same level as straight love for straight people, okay? And similarly for African Americans, and similarly for many disadvantaged groups. So on top of this tribalism, we have an uneven tribalism, and that might be worth our thinking about. We were stunned because 10 years ago I began to study toddlers. How early does this stuff begin? And I was certain that 3-year-olds will be free of it, and then by age 8 or 9 we'll begin to see it, and by adolescence it'll be in full bloom, because these require some learning. And I was just stunned by the data, and I've been talking about them ever since, because what we find is that this result, the one you just saw, is in full form in 3-year-olds. Okay? And I can tell you, if I had time, data on how infants begin to show preferences towards those of their own kind after the first month of life. Okay? So we need to know that. All of this is worth knowing, because the more we know about how bad it is, the harder we will have to work to figure out how to deal with it if it's in our interest, which I think people in this room will agree is. It emerges the drop of a hat. I don't have to do very much. I could slice this room in half and say, you guys on the right side are the righties, and you are the lefties, and give you a little test to do, and in 5 minutes, you will be at war with each other, and we can make that happen like that. This is what experimental psychologists are good at, and we didn't expect this. We created, many years ago, Henri Tajfel, a British psychologist, created something called the minimal group. He said, all we're going to do is tell them, you guys are overestimators, you are underestimators. And he found that in 5 minutes, the overestimators could be made to hate the underestimators and vice versa, restricting resources, giving more to their own kind, and so on. So this can be created extremely fast, which is how we understand some of the data that you saw from the previous speakers. And the signs of who is a member of your tribe can be very subtle. You can just be walking around in New York City, and across the way, you will see a shape and form that will please you or disgust you. You won't say you're disgusted by it because we're too genteel to say that. But somewhere in your brain, there could be a response that is a response of disgust. Okay? And I think we had better know that that's happening, so I'll give you a quick little and a sweet reminder of how subtle the cues can be that will tell you that you love somebody. Okay? And these have impact on us. Okay? So I'm told I have very few minutes, so I can't really tell you. Well, I was going to give you an example of my own bias where I show exactly this particular bias towards a liked other, but I will save that for the Q&A if you ask me. I gave you a message that said, it's worse than you think. And I am going to, in the last 3 minutes, also tell you that, as Niels Bohr said, the physicist said, the opposite of a great truth is also true. And so it is for tribalism. And not in the way in which I meant it, that there are good effects of good tribes and so on. I think bad tribalism is on the wane. And I know it's difficult to see that and to think it in this moment. We're not in a good moment in this country, from my perspective at least, okay? We're seeing things that were hidden that have now come to the fore. And again, as an individual person, much as I detest seeing it, as a scientist, I'm actually glad that we're finding out what it is, because only if we know can we do something about it. So I do want to give you some data on why I think things are different. They are better than they were. I don't know how many people in this room. Oh, you're my age. Okay. All right. Okay. So if you know Tom Lehrer, you remember that he sang a song in his nasal voice called National Brotherhood Week. But even the idea of National Brotherhood Week in the 60s sounds so bizarre to us today. Can you imagine New York having a National Brotherhood Week? I mean, we would just laugh at that, wouldn't we? Because time has passed, and even things we thought that were so cool and so nice suddenly seem outdated. But I'll read to you in, I hope, a Tom Lehrer-like nasal voice, the lovely line he said to sort of show that we've made progress and that we haven't. I know there are people in the world who do not love their fellow human beings, and I hate people like that. So we are getting better. This is a gate at my university, at Harvard. You exit, as you're exiting Harvard Yard and into the square, you will read these words printed by President Eliot not too long ago: "Depart to serve better thy country and thy kind." Like, those last two words have always been intriguing to me. What did President Eliot have in mind when he said, "Dear Harvard people, go out there and serve their kind"? And I have all these images of presidents dressed in weird costumes that he might have had in mind when he said, "Go out there and serve your kind." We would never. Well, we don't think that way anymore. So I want you to know that things are better, that we have given up not only ways of thinking from 10,000 years ago and 500 years ago, but even 40 years ago and 50 years ago. We are changing. If I had a little more time, I would tell you about a result that has both sides of this. Things are bad, and things can be really good because our brains are malleable. They're changeable. We can initially demonstrate, as we did in an experiment we did, my colleague Jason Mitchell and I, in which we demonstrated that when we think about similar others, we use a set of neurons that these are in a region that you don't have to remember the name. This is a region that we would call ventral medial prefrontal cortex. That's a region that we would label dorsal medial prefrontal cortex. And when you think about similar others, the ones who are in your tribe, in this case politically in your tribe, you use these neurons to think about them. So liberals use these to think about other liberals, and conservatives to think about other conservatives. So don't leave this room saying Mahzarin told us something about Republican and Democratic neurons. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there are certain neurons that do get activated when you, a conservative, let's say, is thinking about the mind of another conservative, and you have to think about their future and their life and so on. But you, the conservative, will not use those same neurons to think about an identical other in every other way, but who happens to be liberal. And liberals will do the reverse, okay? So first we see this. This is a scary result, that our brain, unbeknownst to us, is actually assigning different parts of neural real estate to think about people who happen to be a little similar or dissimilar from us. But I can also tell you that later experiments we did, well, we had people in the People's Republic of Cambridge think about what would life be like for a fundamentalist Christian, family to move here and to have to live here and to find a church and to find a school and to find a neighborhood. You can do this for 5 minutes, and all of this can become purple. Who was other can become self. Right? But not without that attempt, and not if you assume that you can leave it as the default. So the last bit of data I want to tell you about are data that I have been very happy about, even though they're not just good messages in it. And I'm happy because we have existence proof that we are changing. Take the Red Sox and Yankees test. Imagine that test, exactly that test, done more precisely on a computer with people. And know that we can have a test on gay good, straight bad, or the other way, straight, whichever way it was, the opposite way. So that's the sexuality test. In 2007, this is the level of bias on that test, and it's an anti-gay bias. That is, most people will associate straight with good and gay with bad. But take a look at this change over time. In 10 years, Americans have changed by an amount that is almost unbelievable. And not in what they're just mouthing to us, but in what they're showing on this test, a test where they can't quite control their reaction. And even on such a test, we're seeing a movement towards neutrality. Our forecasting models predict that in about 20 years, if this trend continues, we will be at neutral on the sexuality. In 20 years, okay? That's fast. We do not see fast change for race, but we are seeing a change. A 17% drop in whatever it was, black bad, white good, is dropping off towards neutrality. Same with skin tone. I don't have time to go into these. These are the sad tests. Nothing changing for age bias, nothing changing for disability, and body weight bias becoming even worse. We really think people who are overweight are really bad, okay? Even more than we did 10 years ago. So this is a full set of data telling us that our tribalisms, or whatever you want to call them, in-group, out-group relations and feelings, there is evidence that we can change. So we need to ask. So I've been spending most of my time these days thinking about everything that makes sexuality different, unique, that is producing this kind of change. I can talk about that endlessly, but those are my speculations. But I want you to take these data away and to know that we are seeing evidence of something amazing happening. And the fact that it can happen to me is so remarkable that I'm willing to now say, if we could apply whatever is going on here, we can, if we bring our prefrontal cortex to bear on these decisions and these choices. You may know this face, may not. It's the 13th century Sufi poet by the name of Rumi. And Rumi said something in a longer poem that I've always treasured as sort of my evolving view of human nature. He said something like this: every single one of us is a jackass, but with the wings of angels tacked onto us. And I think we have both of these. I have spent the last 40 years of my career studying the jackass part of ourselves. Every study I did showed that humans really sucked. But in the last few years, there has been evidence suggesting that we are attempting to figure this out, and we're attempting to be better. And I just want to end by saying, what better city could I be making this point in than your city? That this is a city like no other. That this is a city that, no matter what its problems and what its challenges, has demonstrated to us that we can demolish old tribalisms in a way in which I don't think any other city in the world has done. And I, as an immigrant, can say it with a passion greater than many of you. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having me. Thank you.